The spaceship shone like silver under the twin suns of Xylar 7. Its engines hummed softly as it descended into the city below. Leo, the human explorer, adjusted his visor and looked out at the alien landscape. The buildings were tall and sleek, stretching high into the sky. Lights of blue and green glowed along the streets, and hover vehicles moved swiftly between towers. The city looked alive, almost like it had a heartbeat. Leo had traveled far from Earth. This was his first time on an alien world. He had prepared for months, learning about Xylar 7's culture, technology, and society. Still, nothing could fully prepare him for the sight before him. The aliens themselves were tall, with smooth skin that shimmered slightly under the sunlight. Their eyes were large, bright, and intelligent, reflecting the knowledge of their civilization. Many wore elegant robes, decorated with symbols Leo did not yet understand. As he stepped off his spaceship, a crowd gathered quickly. The humans had always been rare visitors, but on Xylar 7, even more so. Among the crowd was Princess Nira, the young heir of the Xylar throne. She stood taller than most of her people, her presence commanding attention. Her long, flowing robes sparkled, and her hair shimmered like silver threads. She looked at Leo with a mix of curiosity and amusement. "You are a human," she said, her voice clear and sharp. "How small and ordinary you look. Do you expect to survive in our world?" Her tone was mocking, meant to humiliate rather than inquire. Around her, several attendants laughed quietly, nodding in agreement. Leo looked at her calmly. He did not frown or show anger. Instead, he smiled slightly, a simple, confident expression. "I am Leo. I came to learn, not to compete with anyone," he said quietly. His voice carried a calm strength that the aliens found unusual. Most expected humans to react with fear or anger. Princess Nira's eyes narrowed. "Learn," she repeated. "Do you really think a human can learn from us, the rulers of Xylar 7? Your kind is weak. You barely survive on your home world, and here you stand, as if you belong among us." Her words were sharp, cutting through the soft sounds of the city. Leo remained silent for a moment, looking around at the crowd. The citizens watched him closely. Some whispered to each other, curious about this strange human who did not cower. Others seemed skeptical, certain he would fail in this new world. But Leo had learned long ago that true strength was not shown in anger or fear. It was shown in calm, careful observation and action. He stepped forward, moving through the city streets. His pace was slow but steady. The aliens noticed that, even as Nira's mocking continued, he did not turn back. He did not fight or shout. He simply walked, his head held high. The streets were lined with technology unfamiliar to him. Energy barriers protected certain buildings, and moving platforms carried goods and people across the city. Leo observed everything with interest, storing details in his mind for later. Princess Nira's laughter faded into a frown as she followed him. "You do not even react to my words," she said, more to herself than to anyone else. "How can someone so small have such confidence?" Leo approached a market area filled with alien vendors. Strange fruits glowed with soft light, and machines hummed as they prepared food. Aliens moved gracefully, speaking in melodic tones that were difficult for Leo to understand. A young alien vendor noticed him and offered a small glowing fruit. Leo smiled and took it carefully. "Thank you," he said in a simple tone. He examined the fruit and found it tasted sweet and refreshing. The vendor nodded and bowed slightly. Leo's calm manners, simple gestures, and polite words seemed unusual but pleasant to the aliens. Nero watched closely, her pride and curiosity mixing. Most beings in her world would have reacted with fear, anger, or embarrassment. Humans, she realized, did something different. They faced challenges with calmness and thought. It made her uncomfortable. She had grown up thinking all humans were weak. She had never met one in person, and now, seeing Leo walk through her city without fear, she felt a strange sensation she could not name. As the sun shifted in the sky, the city's lights changed hue. Leo walked toward the city's central plaza. Here, the tallest towers reached toward the clouds, and alien statues depicted past leaders in strong, proud poses. The plaza was empty except for a few officials observing him. They whispered among themselves, curious about this human who seemed completely unafraid. Finally, Nira caught up to him, her presence dominating the plaza. She stopped a few steps away. "You think walking calmly through my city proves anything?" she asked, her voice sharp and challenging. "Do you know what our people value? Strength, skill, intelligence, power. Do you possess any of these, human?" Leo looked at her steadily. He did not raise his voice or show annoyance. "Strength is not only in power," he said. "Skill is not only in tools or machines. Intelligence is not only in knowledge. True strength is in courage, in observation, and in action. If you value these, then perhaps I have what you seek." Nira blinked. Her sharp gaze did not waver, but her lips tightened. The words were not exactly what she expected. Most beings, she knew, would have argued or run away. Leo did neither. He stood calmly, showing that he believed in his own abilities without arrogance or pride. The officials around the plaza began to murmur. Some nodded slightly, impressed by the human's composure. Others whispered about the unusual courage humans possessed. Nira felt a mix of irritation and curiosity. She had wanted to mock him, to prove her superiority, yet here he was, unshaken, quietly commanding attention through nothing more than his calm presence. Leo took a deep breath and continued walking across the plaza, ignoring the whispers and laughter. He observed the city carefully, noting the patterns of energy flow, the movements of guards, and the designs of buildings. Every detail mattered, and he stored it all in his mind. To him, this was more than just survival. This was learning, understanding, and adapting. Princess Nira watched until he disappeared into a side street. She clenched her hands slightly, her pride wounded but her curiosity piqued. This human, small and seemingly ordinary, had shown a kind of strength she had never respected before. She did not know if she liked it, but she could not deny it. The citizens whispered, the vendors watched, and the guards turned to follow him with careful eyes. Leo, the human, had arrived on Xylar 7, and he had already made an impression without a single shout, fight, or display of power. The princess had mocked him, but he had walked calmly through the city, showing them all that humans were not weak. And in that quiet, confident way, Leo's journey on Xylar 7 had begun. The morning sun rose over Xylar 7, casting golden light over the tall, shining towers of the city. The streets were quiet, but whispers of yesterday's events still echoed through the citizens. Everyone spoke of Leo, the human who had walked calmly through the city without fear. They still remembered Princess Nira's sharp words and the way Leo had simply ignored them. The princess herself woke with a mix of irritation and curiosity. She could not stop thinking about the human who had dared to walk through her city as if he belonged there. "Why does he not respond?" Nira asked one of her attendants. Her voice was sharp but tinged with frustration. Most beings would either fight or run. He did neither. The attendant bowed slightly. Princess, humans are unusual. They think differently. He may surprise you further if given the chance. Nero frowned. She hated to admit that someone could surprise her. She wanted to prove her superiority, and now she needed a plan. By midday, she announced a public contest. The plaza where Leo had walked yesterday would be the stage. She called it a test of skill, intellect, and courage. Her intention was clear, to humiliate the human before all the citizens and officials. When Leo arrived at the plaza, he saw the preparations already underway. A group of alien engineers had built strange devices for the contest. There were puzzles with glowing crystals, a maze filled with energy barriers, and floating platforms that required balance and precision to cross. The crowd gathered quickly. Some were curious, some excited, and some openly sneering at the human. Princess Nero floated down to the center of the plaza on a small levitation platform. Her silver robes shone in the sunlight, and her eyes glimmered with challenge. "Human," she said, her voice loud and clear. "You have walked through my city and dared to ignore my words. Today, you will face a test designed for the strongest of Xyler 7. If you fail, the entire city will see the truth: humans are weak and unworthy." Leo bowed slightly, a simple, respectful gesture. "I will do my best," he said calmly. His words were soft, but they carried a quiet strength. He did not boast or argue. He only promised to try, and that promise was enough to capture the attention of the crowd. The first challenge involved glowing crystals arranged on a large pedestal. The goal was to place them in a specific pattern to unlock a hidden energy field. Many aliens tried and failed. The crystals would not stay balanced, and the patterns were complicated. Leo observed quietly. He did not rush or panic. Instead, he studied the crystals, noting their weight, their energy flow, and the way light reflected off them. Using simple logic and careful observation, he placed the crystals in a pattern that the aliens had not considered. When the last crystal clicked into place, a soft hum echoed through the plaza, and the energy field glowed brightly. The crowd gasped. Even Princess Nero's eyes widened slightly. The second challenge tested agility. A series of floating platforms hovered above the ground, moving slowly in patterns that seemed unpredictable. The task was to cross the platforms without touching the ground. Many aliens leapt confidently but fell. Leo took a deep breath and stepped forward. He watched the patterns carefully. Instead of leaping blindly, he timed each step and adjusted his weight carefully. His movements were precise and fluid. One by one, he crossed the platforms, landing safely on the other side. The crowd whispered in amazement. Princess Nero's expression hardened. She could not let this human win easily. The final challenge was the most difficult. It was a puzzle of energy conduits that required understanding the flow of power, timing switches, and connecting circuits in a specific order. Even skilled Xyler engineers struggled to solve it. Leo walked calmly to the puzzle. He touched the conduits and studied the flow. Unlike the aliens, he did not rely on memory or learned knowledge. He used intuition, imagination, and logical thinking together. Slowly, carefully, he connected the circuits in a new pattern. The conduits lit up one by one, and a low hum grew louder until it resonated across the plaza. The crowd erupted in astonishment. Leo had completed the final challenge perfectly. Nero floated forward, her eyes sharp but thoughtful. She could not understand how a human, a being she had mocked, had completed tasks designed for the most advanced aliens. She felt a mixture of frustration and admiration. "You succeed," she said. Her voice was quieter now, less mocking and more serious. "I did not expect this. Humans do not usually possess this combination of skill and thinking." Leo nodded simply. "Every being has strengths. I only used mine." His calm confidence made the princess pause. It was not arrogance. It was a quiet acknowledgement that humans could achieve great things through observation, creativity, and courage. The crowd began to murmur. Aliens whispered to each other, questioning their assumptions about humans. Some smiled, impressed by Leo's performance. Others, who had doubted his abilities, nodded reluctantly. Even the officials were intrigued. Leo had shown something unusual. He had not only completed the challenges but had done so with calm, careful focus. Nira's pride still burned, but she could not deny the truth. Humans were different. They thought differently, acted differently, and approached problems in unexpected ways. Her desire to mock Leo had failed. Instead, she had learned something new. She had learned that humans could surprise even the most skilled and proud beings of Xylur 7. As the crowd dispersed, Leo walked through the plaza quietly. He did not seek applause or attention. He only observed the city, learning, noting details about the culture and technology. He saw the pride and curiosity in Nira's eyes, and he understood that their paths would cross again. The princess watched him leave the plaza. She did not speak, but her mind was racing. This human was more than she had expected. He was not just strong or clever. He was calm, patient, and courageous. He had a quiet confidence that made others take notice. She had mocked him, but he had answered with action instead of words. That evening, the citizens spoke of the human who had completed the impossible. His calmness, intelligence, and creativity became the talk of the city. Even Nira admitted to herself that she had underestimated him. She began to wonder if humans could be more than just weak creatures from a distant world. Perhaps they had qualities that even the proud Xylur could admire. Leo returned to his temporary quarters and studied the data he had collected during the challenges. He recorded every detail of the crystals, the platforms, and the energy conduits. He knew that understanding these systems would be important for his future tasks on Xylur 7. More importantly, he had begun to gain the trust and curiosity of the people. Princess Nira, meanwhile, sat in her chambers, thinking deeply. She had set out to humiliate a human, but instead, she had encountered something new. Something that made her question her beliefs and expectations. She realized that strength was not only measured by power or knowledge. It could also be measured by courage, creativity, and the calmness to face challenges without fear. As night fell over the glowing city, Leo looked out at the stars. He knew this was only the beginning of his journey on Xylur 7. The challenges had tested his skills, but there were greater trials ahead. He had walked calmly into a world that sought to judge him. He had proved that humans were more than appearances. And now, the story of the human who dared to face the alien princess had begun to spread across the city. The night was quiet, but the energy of the city seemed alive. Citizens whispered about what they had seen. Some admired Leo, some questioned their own assumptions, and some looked forward to what might come next. For Princess Nira, the day had changed everything. She had mocked a human and learned that appearances could be deceiving. And for Leo, the city of Xylur 7 was no longer just an alien world. It was a place of learning, challenge, and opportunity. The morning light spread softly over Xylur 7. The city had returned to its normal rhythm, but whispers about Leo, the human who had completed Princess Nira's challenge, continued to circulate. Citizens and officials alike spoke of him with surprise and admiration. Even some who had once laughed at him now nodded in respect. Yet, for Princess Nira, the morning brought an uneasy thought. She could not forget the human who had quietly amazed the crowd without raising his voice or showing arrogance. Nira decided to observe him further. She disguised herself in simpler robes and moved among the citizens, following Leo from a distance. She watched as he walked through the markets, talking to vendors politely, inspecting devices, and asking careful questions about the city's systems. Leo did not seem impressed by the advanced technology, nor intimidated by the alien culture. He studied everything with a quiet curiosity, asking questions and testing ideas in small ways. It became clear to Nira that Leo's strength was not in speed, power, or knowledge alone. His skill lay in observation and creativity. He noticed patterns others overlooked, connected ideas that seemed unrelated, and approached problems from angles that no Xyler had considered. He did not rush. He did not demand attention. Instead, he quietly learned, thought, and acted. Later that day, a group of young alien engineers was struggling with a malfunctioning energy matrix. They had tried several adjustments, but the machine would not stabilize. The engineers looked frustrated and exhausted. Leo approached them calmly and knelt beside the matrix. He examined the flow of energy, touched the conduits lightly, and observed the reactions. He asked simple questions about the design and the sequence of adjustments already attempted. After a moment, he suggested a small change, one that seemed almost too simple to try. The engineers exchanged doubtful glances but followed his advice. Slowly, the matrix stabilized. The energy flows evened out, and the machine hummed smoothly. The engineers' eyes widened in surprise. They had been working on the problem for hours, but the human had solved it in minutes. Princess Nira had watched this from a hidden corner. She felt a strange mix of pride and frustration. Her plan to humiliate him had failed completely. More than that, she realized that she had underestimated humans. Leo's ability to see connections and solve problems in ways they could not understand was remarkable. The human had a hidden skill that even the most educated Xyler could not match. Later, Nira approached Leo openly. "Human," she said, her tone softer than usual. "It seems you have skills beyond what I expected. How do you learn so quickly?" Leo looked at her and smiled politely. "I watch carefully. I ask questions. I try to understand how things work. I do not assume that what others know is complete. I try to see the gaps and fill them." Nira's eyes narrowed. "So your kind is clever in ways we did not expect. You observe, adapt, and think differently." "Yes," Leo said simply. "Every being has strengths. Humans have learned to survive by noticing what others overlook. Sometimes that is enough to solve problems that seem impossible." Nira considered his words. She had always believed that her people were the most advanced in Xyler 7. They had the best technology, the fastest ships, and the greatest knowledge. Yet this human had solved problems she and her people had struggled with. His calmness and perspective were unlike anything she had seen. Over the next few days, Leo's quiet demonstrations of skill continued. He helped engineers design a more efficient power system, suggested improvements to transportation platforms, and showed simple methods to stabilize energy fields. Every time, his solutions were not complicated. They were clever, practical, and effective. Citizens began to whisper about the human who could see what others missed. Nira watched him closely. She noticed that he never boasted. He never asked for praise or recognition. Even when his ideas worked perfectly, he moved on calmly, focusing on the next task. It was a discipline she admired but did not understand fully. She realized that strength and intelligence were not only about showing power or knowledge. They could be shown through patience, observation, and quiet action. One afternoon, a minor accident occurred at a laboratory on the edge of the city. A small energy reactor began to overload, threatening to cause damage to the surrounding area. Engineers panicked and tried to shut it down. Leo arrived quickly, assessing the situation. He moved with precision, rerouting energy flows, and adjusting conduits carefully. Within moments, the reactor stabilized, and the danger passed. The crowd that gathered to watch the incident cheered quietly. Leo did not look for attention. He nodded politely to the engineers, then walked away, as if it were a normal part of his day. Nira's expression was thoughtful. She realized that courage was not only about fighting or confronting. It could be about staying calm under pressure, analyzing the situation, and acting effectively. That evening, Nira approached Leo again, this time in private. She floated down to him on her small levitation platform. "You are remarkable," she said. "Your skills, your courage, your way of thinking humans are not what I expected. I see now that I judged your kind unfairly." Leo smiled softly. It is easy to misjudge others based on appearances or reputation. Actions show the truth more clearly than words. I only try to do my best with what I know. Nira nodded slowly. You have a hidden skill, one that even the most educated of my people cannot match. You see the world differently, and that makes you strong. The two of them walked together through the quiet streets of the city. Nira still carried her pride, but now it was mixed with curiosity and respect. She asked Leo questions about his world, his experiences, and how humans had learned to survive and adapt. Leo answered simply, sharing knowledge, observations, and lessons learned from his life. Through these conversations, Nira began to understand that humans were not weak. They had endurance, creativity, and perspective. They could solve problems in ways that advanced technology and intelligence alone could not achieve. She realized that her initial mocking had been shallow. The human before her had shown patience, courage, and skill that were worthy of admiration. Over the next week, Leo continued to explore Xylar 7, quietly helping where he could, observing the city, and learning more about the aliens' culture and technology. Nira watched him closely, sometimes following at a distance, sometimes interacting directly. She began to respect his abilities and started to question her own assumptions about strength, leadership, and intelligence. One night, as the twin suns set, casting golden light over the towers, Nira spoke again to Leo. Your hidden skill is not just in what you can do. It is in how you think, how you observe, and how you remain calm when others panic. That is rare here. Leo looked at the horizon and nodded. That is something humans have learned through experience. Sometimes the simplest approach can solve the hardest problem. Nira smiled slightly, a real smile, not the mocking one she had used before. She had begun to see humans in a new light. They were not the weak, primitive creatures she had assumed. They were capable of courage, intelligence, and creativity. And Leo, the human before her, had shown it all without a single boast, shout, or display of power. As the city lights glowed softly in the evening, Nira realized that this human had changed her perspective. He had taught her that strength could be quiet, that intelligence could be practical, and that courage could be calm. She did not know what challenges awaited them next, but she knew one thing clearly: Leo, the human, had a skill hidden from the world that would continue to surprise everyone. The city of Xylar 7 was quiet in the early morning, bathed in soft golden light. Citizens moved through the streets, preparing for another day of work, learning, and trade. The markets were busy, and the air was filled with the hum of energy systems and the soft chatter of the aliens. Leo walked among them, observing carefully, as he always did. He spoke politely to vendors, inspected energy conduits, and asked questions about local systems. His calm presence was unusual, but the citizens had grown accustomed to it. Princess Nera followed him from a distance, not hiding this time. She floated above the streets on her levitation platform, her silver robes catching the sunlight. She had spent the last week observing Leo and speaking with him. She had begun to respect his intelligence, courage, and calm demeanor. Yet, she still felt the need to test him further, to see how he would react under pressure. Suddenly, a deep, alarming hum filled the city. Citizens froze, looking around in confusion. From the north side of the city, dark ships appeared, descending rapidly from the sky. Their shapes were angular and menacing, with glowing red lights. Panic spread instantly. The ships belonged to a rogue alien faction, long thought to be defeated. They had come to seize power, attacking the city to overthrow the princess and take control. The citizens ran in fear, seeking shelter behind energy barriers and inside buildings. The attackers began firing destructive energy weapons, targeting key structures and causing chaos. Nera's heart raced. She had faced political threats before, but she had never seen such a sudden, violent attack on her people. Her guards rushed to form protective lines, but many were outnumbered and unsure how to respond. Leo immediately assessed the situation. He did not panic. Instead, he scanned the battlefield quickly, noting the positions of the attackers, the patterns of their weapons, and the safest paths for citizens to move. His calmness had a strange effect on those nearby. Guards and citizens began to follow his lead, trusting his judgment even though he was a human. "Follow me," Leo called, moving toward a group of civilians trapped near a damaged building. He guided them through narrow alleys, past energy barriers, and toward a safe zone he had identified. His movements were precise and deliberate, and his clear thinking helped others avoid panic. The citizens, who had initially feared the unknown human, now saw him as a guide and protector. Princess Nera watched in astonishment. She had expected chaos, not leadership from a human. She realized that Leo's calm and practical thinking was exactly what the city needed in this moment. She directed her guards to support him, following his instructions carefully. Together, they evacuated citizens from danger zones, using barricades and energy shields to protect them. The rogue aliens advanced, attempting to capture important city structures. Leo studied their attack patterns and noticed a weak point in their formation. He directed a group of engineers to reroute energy flows to create temporary barriers while a small squad of guards moved to flank the attackers. The plan worked perfectly. The attackers' ships were slowed, and several were forced to retreat. Citizens cheered quietly from safe areas, amazed by the humans' ability to lead under pressure. Despite the chaos, Leo remained focused. He moved through the city, checking that no one was left behind. He helped stabilize damaged energy systems and guided injured citizens to safety. Nera observed his every move, her respect growing with each action. She realized that bravery was not always shown through fighting. It could be shown through calm, thoughtful action and the courage to help others when danger arrived. The battle continued for several hours. The rogue aliens were powerful, but they had underestimated the city's defenses and the human who guided them. Leo's strategies combined human intuition with the knowledge of the Xylar engineers. Energy barriers were adjusted quickly, escape routes were created, and citizens were kept out of harm's way. The attackers were forced to retreat one by one, unable to overcome the careful coordination of the defenders. Finally, the last of the rogue ships fled into the sky, leaving the city in relative safety. Smoke rose from damaged buildings, but the people had survived. Citizens emerged from shelters, cheering for Leo and the guards who had defended them. Nira floated to the plaza where Leo stood, her expression a mix of awe and relief. "You saved the city," she said, her voice calm but firm. "Your thinking, your courage, and your calmness under pressure humans are not what I expected. You are more than clever. You are brave." Leo shook his head slightly. "I did not do it alone. Your guards and your people helped. I only tried to observe carefully and act where I could." Nira's eyes softened. She had mocked him before, but now she understood. Strength was not only about power or technology. True strength was about courage, observation, and the ability to act when others could not. Leo had shown her that humans possessed all of these qualities in abundance. Citizens gathered around, looking at Leo with admiration. They spoke quietly about how he had guided them through danger, solved problems that seemed impossible, and acted calmly when panic had taken hold of others. Even the most skeptical officials nodded in approval. Leo had earned their respect not through words or displays of power, but through action and courage. That evening, the city slowly returned to order. Engineers repaired damaged systems, citizens rebuilt their homes, and guards patrolled the streets more carefully. Leo walked through the city, checking that everything was secure. Nira followed him, observing his methods and the care he showed for others. She realized that leadership was not only about rank or status. It was about understanding, courage, and the ability to guide others through challenges. In her chambers that night, Nira thought deeply about the day. She had mocked a human, expecting weakness. Instead, she had witnessed bravery, skill, and intelligence in action. She realized that her assumptions had been wrong. Humans were not only clever but capable of courage that even advanced aliens could admire. She understood that the human before her, Leo, had changed her perspective forever. Leo, meanwhile, recorded observations in his log. He had learned much about the city's defense systems, the people, and their technology. More importantly, he had seen how courage and calmness could influence others during a crisis. He had survived the attack and helped the city, but he knew that this was only the beginning of his journey on Xylar 7. As the twin suns set, casting warm light over the city, Nira and Leo stood on a balcony overlooking the plaza. The city was quiet again, but the memory of the attack remained in everyone's mind. Nira spoke softly, almost to herself. "Humans are not what I believed. They are clever, brave, and patient. I have underestimated your kind for too long." Leo smiled, his calm expression unchanged. "Every being has strengths. Appearances can be deceiving, and courage often comes quietly." The city lights glowed gently, reflecting the resilience of the people and the lessons learned that day. Citizens would remember the human who guided them through danger, and Princess Nira would never forget the quiet strength he had shown. Leo had not only survived an attack but had taught the city a lesson about courage, observation, and leadership. And as night fell over Xylar 7, the bond between the princess and the human grew stronger, built on respect, admiration, and the knowledge that together, they could face any challenge the future might bring. The city of Xylar 7 had survived the attack, but the memory of danger still lingered in the minds of its citizens. The streets were quieter than usual, and energy workers moved quickly to repair damaged systems. Citizens whispered about the events of the day, speaking of the human who had guided them through the chaos. Leo walked among them, observing the repairs, offering advice where needed, and quietly helping those who seemed confused or anxious. Princess Nera followed closely, floating on her levitation platform. She had spent much of the day watching Leo, her pride slowly giving way to admiration. She had always thought humans were weak, incapable of handling the challenges of a world like Xylar 7. Yet Leo had not only survived the attack, he had guided others, solved problems, and remained calm when panic had taken hold. She could not deny it. He had earned respect through action, not words. As Leo moved through a busy plaza where citizens were rebuilding damaged stalls, a small crowd gathered around him. A young alien child dropped a glowing fruit and began to cry. Leo knelt, smiling gently. "It is okay," he said softly. He picked up the fruit and handed it back to the child. The crowd watched in silence, impressed by his kindness and patience. The small act, so ordinary to Leo, spoke volumes about his character. Nera hovered nearby, her eyes studying him carefully. She realized that respect was earned not through titles or power, but through actions that showed care, courage, and intelligence. Leo did not seek attention. He did not boast. He simply acted when it was needed, and that was enough to earn the admiration of those around him. Later, in the central plaza, a group of officials approached Leo. They bowed slightly, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and respect. "Human," one of them said, "your actions during the attack have saved many lives. The citizens speak of your courage and calmness. We wish to know more about you and how your kind handles challenges." Leo smiled politely. "I only tried to help where I could." Humans learn to observe carefully and act calmly. We do not rely solely on strength or technology. We use logic, observation, and courage together. The officials nodded. They had long believed that humans were weak and limited. Seeing Leo's calm skill in action had changed their perspective. Many began to whisper to each other, discussing how humans might bring new ideas and methods to Xylar 7. Meanwhile, Nera remained silent, watching him carefully. She felt a mix of pride and curiosity. She had mocked Leo at first, expecting him to fail. Instead, he had proven that humans could think, act, and lead in ways she had never imagined. She began to wonder what other strengths humans might possess that even the most advanced Xylar had not discovered. As the day progressed, Leo continued to assist wherever he could. He helped engineers repair energy barriers more efficiently, advised on safer transportation routes, and even suggested simple changes to improve the flow of goods in the markets. Every suggestion was practical, easy to implement, and effective. Citizens began to follow his advice, noticing improvements in their daily lives almost immediately. By evening, the city had returned to a sense of normalcy. The damaged areas were repaired, the citizens were calm, and the threat from the rogue aliens had passed. Leo walked to the edge of the plaza, observing the people and the city's systems. He noted areas where improvements could be made, not for power or fame, but to ensure the safety and well-being of everyone. Nera approached him quietly. "Human," she said, her voice soft, "you have earned respect here, not through words or displays of strength, but through your actions. The citizens look up to you. Even I find myself learning from you." Leo turned to her, smiling gently. "Thank you, Princess. Respect is not given lightly." It is earned through actions, patience, and care. You have a strong city and capable people. I only hope my presence has helped. Nira nodded slowly. She realized that leadership was not about status or titles. It was about understanding people, making careful decisions, and acting when others could not. She had always believed she knew what leadership meant, but Leo had shown her a different perspective. That night, the city held a quiet ceremony to honor those who had defended it. Nira stood before the citizens, her silver robes glowing in the soft evening light. She spoke clearly, her voice firm and sincere. Citizens of Xylar 7, today we faced danger, and we overcame it together. A visitor from another world, a human named Leo, has shown courage, skill, and calmness beyond what we expected. We owe him our gratitude. The crowd cheered softly, their respect for Leo growing. Leo bowed politely, acknowledging their words. He did not seek the praise, but he accepted it with humility. The citizens now saw humans in a new light. They were not weak or primitive. They were clever, brave, and capable of making a difference, even in the most advanced city of Xylar 7. Nira floated down beside Leo. You have changed the way we see humans, she said. I mocked your kind at first, thinking you weak and unimportant. I was wrong. You have shown us that courage, intelligence, and calmness can come in any form. You have earned our respect, and mine as well. Leo smiled. I only acted with what I know. Humans learn to observe, adapt, and help others. I am glad I could assist your city. Over the next few days, Leo's presence became a symbol of courage and wisdom. Citizens sought his advice, officials consulted him for problem solving, and even Nero began to rely on his insights in matters of leadership. He had earned respect not through force or dominance, but through careful observation, action, and integrity. Nero spent time speaking with him privately. She asked questions about Earth, about human society, and about the ways humans had survived challenges across time. Leo answered patiently, sharing his knowledge and perspective. Nira realized that learning was not only about technology or skill. It was about understanding, observation, and the courage to act wisely. One evening, as the twin suns set, casting long shadows over the city, Nira and Leo stood together on a balcony overlooking the plaza. The city lights reflected in the calm energy barriers, and citizens moved quietly below. You have taught me something important, Nira said softly. Strength is not only about skill or knowledge. It is about courage, observation, and the willingness to act when needed. You have shown me that humans can embody all of these qualities. Leo looked at the horizon, his expression calm and thoughtful. Every being has strengths. It is not appearances that matter, but what one does when it counts. Nira nodded, smiling genuinely for the first time in days. She understood that Leo had earned the city's respect, not through boasting, fighting, or clever tricks, but through actions that mattered in real life. His quiet courage, intelligence, and care had shown her a new way of thinking about leadership, trust, and honor. As night settled over Xylar 7, the city was calm, safe, and full of hope. Citizens had seen the difference one being could make through intelligence and courage. Princess Nira had learned that respect was earned through action, not words. And Leo, the human, had shown that true strength was not always loud or visible. It was calm, careful, and always ready to help those in need. The bond between the princess and the human had deepened. They shared a growing understanding, built on admiration, trust, and the lessons learned during the crisis. And as the city rested under the soft glow of the twin moons, Leo and Nira knew that the challenges they would face in the future would be met together, with courage, wisdom, and respect guiding every step. The city of Xylar 7 had recovered from the recent attack, but the atmosphere had changed. Citizens moved through the streets with renewed energy and respect, speaking often of Leo, the human who had guided them through danger. Even the young children pointed to him in admiration as he walked calmly among the crowd, observing, learning, and quietly helping wherever needed. Princess Nira followed him closely, floating beside him on her levitation platform. Over the past days, she had watched him carefully and learned from his actions. She had come to understand that humans had a unique perspective and ability to observe, adapt, and solve problems in ways that even the advanced Xylar engineers did not consider. She was eager to learn more from him, and a sense of curiosity had replaced the irritation she had once felt. "Human," Nira said softly, "you have taught our city much already. Your courage, intelligence, and calmness have changed how my people see your kind. But I want to understand more. How do humans think differently from us?" Leo smiled, his calm expression unchanged. "We observe carefully and consider what others might overlook. We combine logic, creativity, and action. Sometimes solutions come from seeing patterns others miss. Other times, courage and patience are more important than speed or power. Humans learn through experience, trial, and careful thinking." Nira nodded slowly. She had always believed that knowledge and technology were the most important qualities a leader could possess. But Leo had shown her that understanding, courage, and practical thinking could be just as powerful. She began to ask him questions about human society, their methods of problem solving, and the ways they handled challenges. Leo answered patiently, explaining simple ideas that had profound effects on her perspective. Over the next week, Leo worked closely with the engineers and leaders of the city. He suggested improvements to energy systems, transportation platforms, and communication networks. His ideas were often simple but highly effective. One suggestion involved adjusting the flow of energy through the city's main conduits, allowing more efficient use without risking overload. The engineers were amazed by the ease and effectiveness of his solution. Nira observed all of this, taking mental notes. She realized that learning was not about pride or showing superiority. It was about observing, listening, and trying new approaches. She began to ask Leo to explain not only what he did but why he made certain choices. His answers were always calm, thoughtful, and easy to understand. Through these interactions, Nero learned to value the strength of quiet wisdom alongside the more obvious power of her people's technology and status. One afternoon, Leo and Nero walked together through the city's main plaza. Citizens paused to watch them, speaking quietly among themselves. Many had grown curious about the bond between the princess and the human. They noticed that Nira often asked for Leo's advice, and he responded with care and humility. It was clear that respect and understanding had replaced mocking and judgment. A group of young engineers approached Leo, carrying a small but complex energy device. "Human," one said, "we are having trouble with this device. Can you help us?" Leo knelt beside the device and examined it carefully. He observed the way the energy flowed, the placement of conduits, and the timing of the switches. "Try adjusting these connections," he suggested, pointing to specific components. "It will balance the flow and stabilize the system." The engineers followed his instructions, and the device immediately stabilized. They looked at Leo in awe. Nira, watching nearby, smiled. She realized that humans did not rely solely on advanced technology or brute force. They used careful observation, practical thinking, and creativity to solve problems. Later, Nira asked Leo a personal question. Do humans always work this way? Calm, careful, and precise. Leo shook his head. Not always. We make mistakes like anyone else. But we have learned that thinking carefully, observing patterns, and acting with patience often leads to better results than rushing or relying only on power. Nira considered this. She realized that many of her people, including herself, had often relied too much on technology and status. Leo's approach combined intelligence with courage and patience, creating solutions that others could not see. She began to admire this method and thought about how she could apply it to her leadership. Over the next few days, Leo and Nira worked together on several projects. They improved the energy systems in the city, redesigned transportation platforms for efficiency, and created new training methods for the guards. Citizens noticed the changes, and morale improved. Leo's influence on the city was growing quietly but steadily. Through all of this, Nira began to see humans differently. She realized that strength was not always visible, and intelligence was not only about memorizing knowledge. Courage, observation, patience, and the willingness to act wisely were just as important. Leo had shown her that humans could be leaders, problem solvers, and protectors, even in a world far more advanced than their own. One evening, as the twin suns set, casting soft orange light over the city, Nira and Leo stood on a balcony overlooking the plaza. Citizens moved below, their faces calm and hopeful. Nira spoke softly. Human, you have taught me much. I see now that strength is not only about power or technology. It is also about courage, observation, and understanding. You have shown me that humans have these qualities in abundance. Leo smiled. Every being has strengths. Sometimes they are obvious, sometimes hidden. What matters is using them wisely when the time comes. Nira nodded. She felt a growing sense of respect and admiration for the human who had come to her city. She realized that learning was not a sign of weakness, but a path to greater strength. Together, they had begun to exchange knowledge, skills, and perspectives. Nira learned from Leo about patience, creativity, and observation, while Leo learned from her about Xyler technology, culture, and leadership. By the end of the week, the city had become more efficient, safer, and more prepared for any future challenges. Citizens spoke often of Leo, not just as a visitor, but as someone who had helped shape their city in meaningful ways. Nira, once proud and mocking, had learned to trust and respect him. The bond between them grew stronger, built on mutual understanding and the knowledge that together, they could face any challenge. As night fell over Xyler 7, the city lights glowed softly, reflecting the peaceful energy of the recovering citizens. Leo and Nira stood side by side, looking out over the city. They had both learned from each other, gaining new perspectives and insights. Nira had discovered the quiet strength of humans, and Leo had learned more about the culture and wisdom of Xyler 7. In the quiet of the evening, Nira spoke again. I used to think humans were weak and unworthy of respect. Now I see that you have courage, intelligence, and patience that are rare even among the most advanced beings. I am glad you are here. Leo nodded calmly. I am glad too. Every being has something to teach. You have shown me the importance of observation, culture, and leadership. Together, we can learn from each other and make the world better. The twin moons rose over Xyler 7, casting a gentle glow over the city. Citizens rested, secure in the knowledge that the human who had earned their respect and the princess who had learned to see strength differently were watching over them. The city had changed, and so had Nira and Leo. They had learned from each other, forming a partnership built on trust, respect, and the shared goal of protecting and improving the city. The city of Xylur 7 had never been quieter. After the recent attack and the efforts to rebuild, citizens moved through the streets with calm purpose. Markets hummed with activity, energy systems flowed smoothly, and guards patrolled confidently. The city had grown stronger, safer, and more efficient, thanks in part to the guidance of Leo, the human who had arrived unexpectedly and shown courage, intelligence, and calm leadership. Princess Nera floated above the city on her levitation platform, her silver robes catching the morning light. She watched as citizens moved with renewed energy and focus. For days, she had reflected on the lessons she had learned from Leo. She had once mocked humans, believing them weak and unworthy. Now, she understood the depth of their courage, intelligence, and ability to adapt. She felt a quiet respect and admiration for Leo, who had quietly changed the city and her perspective through his actions. Leo walked through the central plaza, observing the city and interacting with citizens. He smiled politely as children waved, engineers thanked him for advice, and guards nodded in recognition. His calm presence inspired confidence, and it was clear that the people had begun to see him not as an outsider, but as someone who had helped their city grow stronger. Nera descended to the plaza, floating gracefully beside him. "Human," she said softly, "your influence on this city has been remarkable. You have helped us in ways we could not have imagined. But more than that, you have taught me lessons that no technology or title could provide." Leo looked at her calmly. "I only acted with what I know. Humans learn to observe, adapt, and act wisely. I am glad I could assist your people." The princess nodded, her expression thoughtful. "I once thought humans were weak. I mocked you and expected failure. Instead, you have shown strength, patience, and courage. You have earned the respect of the city and mine as well. I see now that leadership and wisdom are not only about power or knowledge. They are also about observation, careful action, and understanding." Leo smiled politely. "Every being has strengths. Respect is earned through actions, patience, and care. What matters is how one uses their abilities to help others." Their conversation was interrupted by a soft alarm from the city's energy network. A minor surge had occurred in a remote district. While it was not dangerous, it required attention. Without hesitation, Leo and Nero moved together toward the area, coordinating with engineers and guards. The surge was quickly stabilized, and the situation was resolved calmly. Citizens watched as Leo and Nero worked in perfect coordination, their respect and admiration growing further. After the incident, Nero spoke to the gathered citizens. "People of Xylur 7, she said, her voice firm and sincere, "we have faced many challenges recently. A human, Leo, has come to our city and shown courage, intelligence, and wisdom. Through his actions, he has helped protect and improve our home. Let his example remind us that strength is not only in power or technology, but also in careful thought, courage, and understanding." The crowd cheered, not loudly, but with genuine respect. Many approached Leo to thank him, and he acknowledged each with a polite nod or a gentle smile. Nera observed quietly, feeling a sense of pride not only in her city, but in the human who had changed how she and her people saw strength and leadership. Over the next few days, Leo and Nera worked side by side on several projects. They improved city systems, trained guards in problem solving and observation, and helped citizens adapt to the new methods of organization and efficiency. Every project strengthened the city, and every moment deepened the trust and understanding between human and princess. One afternoon, as they walked along the edge of the city overlooking the plains beyond, Nira spoke. Leo, I have learned much from you. Your calmness, observation, and courage are qualities I will always remember. I used to mock humans, but I see now that we misjudge others when we look only at appearances. Leo nodded, his expression calm. It is easy to misjudge. Every being has strengths. Sometimes they are quiet, hidden, or unexpected. What matters is using them wisely to help others. Nira smiled genuinely, feeling a warmth she had not expected. She realized that her initial pride had prevented her from seeing the true value of others. Leo had changed that. He had shown her that respect and understanding were earned through actions and care, not by titles or appearances. That evening, the citizens of Xylar 7 gathered in the central plaza for a small celebration. It was not a festival, but a recognition of the city's resilience and the lessons learned through recent events. Nira and Leo stood together before the crowd. Citizens, Nira began, we have faced danger, challenges, and tests in recent days. We have also learned valuable lessons. We have seen that courage, intelligence, and patience can come from unexpected places. A human named Leo has guided us, taught us, and helped strengthen our city. We honor him not because he is from another world, but because he has shown us the meaning of true strength. The citizens cheered softly, showing their gratitude and respect. Many approached Leo to shake hands, offer thanks, or simply smile. Leo accepted their gestures with humility, never boasting or seeking attention. He understood that true respect came from actions, not recognition. After the ceremony, Nira and Leo walked quietly through the plaza. The twin moons of Xylar 7 had risen, casting a soft glow over the city. Nira spoke again, softly, almost to herself. I once thought humans were weak. I mocked you. But I see now that strength is not always visible. Courage, intelligence, and care can be quiet, yet powerful. You have shown me this, Leo. Leo looked at her calmly. Every being has something to teach. You have also shown me much about leadership, responsibility, and the strength of your people. Together, we have learned from each other, and the city has grown stronger because of it. Nira nodded, a genuine smile on her face. We have. And I am grateful. The city lay quiet under the twin moons, peaceful and secure. Citizens rested in their homes, engineers maintained the energy systems, and guards watched carefully over the streets. The city was stronger, safer, and wiser because of the events that had passed and the lessons learned. Leo and Nira stood together on the balcony of the palace, overlooking the plaza below. The bond between them had grown through shared challenges, observation, and mutual respect. They had learned from each other, taught each other, and helped the city thrive. What had begun as mockery and misunderstanding had transformed into admiration, partnership, and trust. Nira spoke softly, her voice filled with sincerity. Leo, you have changed the way I see humans. You have shown me that strength is more than appearances. Courage, intelligence, patience, and understanding are what make a being truly strong. You have earned the respect of the city and my personal respect as well. Leo smiled, calm and composed. Thank you, Princess. I am glad to have helped and to have learned from you as well. True strength comes from working together, understanding each other, and acting wisely. The twin moons glowed over Xylar 7, reflecting the calm and quiet power of a city strengthened by courage, observation, and care. Citizens would remember the human who had guided them, the princess who had learned to see strength differently, and the lessons that would last for generations. For Leo and Nira, the journey had ended in understanding, respect, and a shared commitment to protect and improve the city. Together, they had proven that strength, courage, and intelligence could come in many forms, and that the bonds of trust and cooperation were stronger than any weapon or technology. And as the city slept under the gentle glow of the moons, peace reigned over Xylar 7, a city forever changed by the calm, quiet courage of a human named Leo.